I think what happened to you was a fucking travesty in this.
Oh, you think?
No. I'm serious.
I'm now hanging out in your house. What do you?
No. I mean that
A
sincerely.
yapping dog that wants to bite me on the ankle.
I mean that sincerely.
No, thanks, Mike. All kidding aside, I was devastated when they let me go. It's serious.
No, more devastating is that I can for an hour at least, I could name people that are national headliners now and bigger. People who are on TV, all the movies, the millionaires themselves now that just fucking went. Turn their back on you. They're like, you know, you don't have this. Bad mouth, or saying all kinds of fucking nonsense and stuff, right? And you know what? I hate this business so much sometimes.
What do you think that's about, Mike? Because, look, I'm not completely innocent, obviously. We all have our issues, and we've done things to people. So, all right, fair enough. So some of the stuff, you know, is justified. But why do you think that, like, so many people have now decided they have to stab me in the back and talk shit about me now that I don't have this big radio show? What do you think it's about?
People are super self-absorbed in this business because it's about what can you do for me lately? That's the main thing. And it's like, like I said, my friends in this are who I like as people. I don't care. If someone's famous and an asshole, I don't want to be a friend of them. I don't care what they can do for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I like you as a person, you're my friend. Most people like a chess game, like, oh, he can get me to this, that guy will do this, they'll do that. No, it's about having great work done, keeping your mouth shut, and getting along with everybody you can.
So it's safe to say a lot of those relationships I had over the years were not real, huh?
It depends who it is.
It was real because I had the big show, and then the show goes away. I really have found out who my true friends are.
Oh yeah.
And I found out what a lot of these people are made of. I still have plenty of friends.
Of course.
Have any of those guys stuck around since? Because as from a fan's point of view, and when it became just Opie Radio, your show became the only show I was listening to, even though I was fans of everybody else. And I couldn't figure out in my head, as somebody who's just a fan and then following the YouTube shit, what they would say about you on the other side, and then what you were trying to say. Was any of this shit true? Like, that you were just always an asshole behind the scenes? You know, as a fan, I don't know.
I mean, I unfortunately played the role of boss, so that comes with a lot of tough things you got to do. I hired most of the people. I had to fire most of the people. I had to deal with everyone's issues at SiriusXM. And those guys, all they had to do was show up and be funny on the radio and leave immediately.
You know,
I was the one that was taking all the meetings. So
it's like you've been an agent, a manager,
well, some of it,
you know what I mean? It's
and some of it was certainly some of it was true, but also it's based on very, very old information. I realized a long time ago that I kind of had an anger problem. Like, I would be frustrated with people around me, and I would yell and scream. Who doesn't? Thank you. But I would yell and scream to try to get my way and try to get my point across. Realize when you do that, even though you know you're right with what you're saying, no one's going to listen to you. They think you're complete and utter asshole.
How are they taking it? And you know where I related to you? Was because when I started, I mean, obviously your show is a behemoth, and my podcast is like a little speck of sand. But I started my podcast, it was just me. And then after a year or so, I met with these other comics networking, and then I started working with them. But now there's more voices at the table. So it's like when Opie created his show back in the day. Now he's got Anthony on with him. Now Jim Norton comes. Sometimes other people on the show, they start clicking together, and then I could see, or maybe even hear, now you're sitting there like, this is my show. I also want to bring my show in a certain direction, but sometimes the guy steering the ship, sometimes the sails are blowing different ways, and I could see where a lot of your frustration came from sometimes. You're trying to go here, and then other people at the table are pulling it this way. You know what I mean? So I saw a lot of times where you were kind of like, all right, this conversation, you know. Wow,
Sal's really smart, Mike.
I go through it.
Stick with this guy.
I go through it.
No, because that's a really good point, and I'll admit this today too. Like, when you have three guys, you're gonna have two that are tighter, and I was definitely the odd man out.
Right. Sometimes
because Jimmy and Ant got really close and bonded, and maybe at that point, they should have just kind of moved on and done their own thing.
And it's not to say it's a bad thing, but I can see where when it's your show and you're going, well, these two people are closer. And I used to, as a fan, listen, and you would go, okay, well, maybe in a year we don't continue with this. And we just go our own ways and do our own things. And as a selfish fan, I was going, no, fucking don't break it up. But I get why now you're like, in a peaceful way, I'm going to go do my thing and have fun, and you can go do your thing and have fun.
Well, the interesting thing about that, I get a lot of hate that I was the one that broke up Opie and Anthony. I never broke up Opie and Anthony. Anthony got fired.
But what about them saying you could have fought for Anthony more?
We absolutely fought for Anthony. I mean, he likes to spin that now. We also were under contract, so we couldn't leave right away. They were threatening us with all sorts of stuff.
I don't think you should have left because of the contract thing. But I mean... Anthony
never asked me to join him when he was fired. When he was fired.
Even when you made the video?
If he wasn't fired, the Opie and Anthony brand would have continued in some way.
When you made the video about... it kind of was misleading that you were going to be Anthony's new co-host, but then you told us, no, I'm not, before Artie came on. In my head, I was thinking, did Anthony ever ask him and Opie just didn't want to go? Did that ever happen? Did he ever offer you to that spot?
I was offered to go over to Compound Media through Keith. Me and Anthony officially never... Well, no, then Ant sort of reached out and said it would be cool. But at that point, it wasn't the right place for me because I needed to move on and do my own thing. And it was, at this point, it was years have gone by since the O&A show. So I took it very seriously, and in the end, I'm like, that's just not the place for me. Nothing against those guys over there, but I want to do a whole, different thing. And somehow that spun into, now I really got to hate you even more.
Do you know when you turned me? Because I didn't know who to like more or whatever.
But I don't care who people like more.
No, I know
that's
you
not
don't.
coming
But
from
I
me.
want to say, when your point of view, you don't want to deal with that, though. And I see a lot of fans, they pick sides.
It's ridiculous.
And as a fan of both, there was a day you turned me. I remember it was when towards the end of Opie and Jim, and one day you just said it all. It was like an hour long, and you talked about when you said Anthony didn't even when he left your wedding, or when you said he hasn't even met my second kid. Right. I remember it was my wife used to hate when I would just play the show all the time because she doesn't want to hear it all. But I remember that day, even she was quiet, and we were listening together. I was like, listen to this, like the real shit's coming out. And I was like, you know what? I could see it from Opie's point of view at this point, after 20 years. You haven't seen his kid, you left the wedding. I just got married a year ago. If one of my people I've known for 20 years just got up and took some of the wedding and left,
right?
What the fuck is that?
Wow, Sal's bringing up some dirt. I was deeply hurt because we got married in Philly at the Ritz-Carlton, and Ant decided that was a perfect weekend to plan a trip to Atlantic City. So not only did he not stay for plates, plates. Yeah. They didn't stay for the main part of the wedding because they moved on to Atlantic City, and he brought a whole bunch of the staff with him. So not only did he leave, he left with a whole bunch of people and thought this was the perfect time to go to Atlantic City.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I can't say who's right or wrong in any of it, but just when you explain that situation, all I see is if I was sitting at the dais, like people standing up, you're pretty much saying I have something more important to do than the most important moment in Opie's life.
100%.
Yeah.
So, but I did fight for him. He thinks I didn't fight for him enough.
Yeah, but there's only so much you can do because you know how brutal the suits are fucking brutal animals.
But he was already building his home studio. He left. He got fired. We talked a little bit, and there was no conversations in there. Why don't we try to do this on our own for my new studio? It never came up.
Wow.
So for me to get all the hate for breaking up the O&A show, it's just simply not true.
I could see if you didn't fight for him. I could see why, though. Once again, putting myself in your shoes. If I wasn't getting along so great with somebody, this was kind of a natural way to let you go do your own thing from now on. And who could blame you for feeling that way? It wasn't you actually blowing the show up. Sirius was doing it for you. So if that did happen, what you're saying it didn't, you fought for him. I would be like, I wouldn't fault the guy for doing that,
I fought for all my guys many, many times. Jimmy knows how many times I fought for him. Anthony knows how many times I fought for him. When me and Anthony got back, when me and Anthony started, and he literally didn't know anything about this business, he was a quick learner and really knows what he's doing. I'll give props when it's necessary. But when we moved to Boston, I was the radio guy, and he was in air conditioning, but a natural talent.
He's like me, a blue-collar worker who wants to break it. I always saw that and was like, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's why people really could relate to Anthony, of course. And then we go up to Boston, and we had this PD, Dave Douglas, and he pulled me, and knows this story, pulls me aside and was feeling me out. He's like, why Anthony? In the break room. I go, what do you mean, why Anthony? You were listening to the show? Why are you even asking that question? That's ridiculous. But he was feeling me out because he wanted to get rid of Anthony at the time. And I went to Bruce Mittman and basically said, what is Dave Douglas doing? He doesn't see the chemistry and how we got a good thing going on here. But Anthony knows that story, you know, so he knows I stuck up for him all those years.
That's what the suit's done. What you said about earlier about yelling at people is, I'd rather be yelled at, right, than have fucking people cut my throat.
Yeah, well,
any day.
I should,
yeah, but I want to hear honesty.
No, I should finish that though. So then I knew that was one of my issues. I've worked on a lot of my issues over the years, and I'm like, you can't yell at anyone anymore. No, everyone just looks at you like you're a complete and utter asshole.
It's just a projection of whatever you're going through.
Yeah, so that's really old news. The days when I was kind of an asshole to people around me, because there was pure frustration, and it was also pure frustration. It was also pure frustration that I was the one that had to deal with all that crap.
Because at the end of the day, your name's on the show. It's coming back on you. So I get that. You know?
But I'll say this, you know, and then we can move on to other things. I wish those guys nothing but the best. You know, I've taken some shots here and there, of course, because I get an avalanche of hate coming from.
The net is horrible. I fucking hate
honestly, coming from Anthony. If you told me all these years later that the majority of the hate toward me would be coming from the guy that we did a radio show together, I would say you're insane.
Well, you were quiet for the longest, and I remember thinking like, this stuff's coming out from that side. Why isn't Opie saying anything? And then finally, I guess you felt like you had to say something. And you finally said everything that happened, and it's like, okay, here it all is. But I heard Jim Norton say something one day. He said, you know, Opie wasn't saying things on the air about it, but that's why a lot of stuff never came out about how he was behind the scenes. So what I'm not.
But Jimmy was no treat behind the scenes. Anthony was no treat behind the scenes. Sure. They know. I mean, I don't want to go. I mean, we already went into the mud, but. I mean, you know, the fact is, most of the hate's coming from over there. I respond when I have to, but I'm just moving on. I know the Opie and Anthony show is really important to a lot of people.
Oh yes,
it's important to radio in general.
Yeah, I understand that, and I take that very seriously. But I also like living in the present, which I'm doing now. And for some reason, you know, other people associated with the radio show they just don't want to let it go. You know.
Well, when I ask you these questions, Opie, and I thank you for taking the questions. It's only because, not that you're talking about anybody right now, it's as a fan, hey, this is questions as a fan. Sometimes you had comics come on and other people who are familiar with the show who got to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
This is kind of what the fans want to know, and it's awesome that we all get to talk about it.
Well, thanks for nothing, Sal. No, I don't mind talking about it, but I also like, you know, I just want to move on. Yeah. You know, I just want to.
And you have to, because you know why? That's the only way things are going to change, because like...
well, I also hate the people that say, well, you know... they're fighting with each. I'm not fighting with anybody. Like on a regular basis, they're taking shots at me, and every once in a while, I'll comment.
You know what it is? It feeds the media. I hate social media, because the only thing I really like having is a cell phone, right? Twitter, Reddit, Facebook are full of fucking morons. They're assholes. They're fucking Twitter warriors. You know what I mean? If you got them in a house, they were living in the same basement I am, asking their mom for ice cream money.
Well, I said it on an earlier podcast, like fighting with someone on Twitter is like fighting a ghost.
No, you're right. Because you can't I want to lunge at them, though, and fucking kill them in the house.
And they love hearing this, but it is the truth. You will never win if you take on a hater. You will never win. They'll win every single time.
Stalk them down, though. You know what I mean?
One reason why they'll win is because they'll just simply lie and make all sorts of shit about you, which you know is not true, and you're like, I can't compete with that shit.
Before we move on from this stuff, can I ask you one question?
Yes.
All right. So when you left. And then Jim and Sam took over the morning show, right? You said that they fucked you. They claimed no, it just was the natural progression of things. Was it? Did they really do anything? I don't know. Did they really do anything to usurp your position and take it?
Me and Jimmy had the same agent at the time.
So was it your agent's fuck up? Thinking, hey, let me go with these guys?
I wasn't happy that he was also representing the show that was replacing me. And there was some dirty shit that was happening. Absolutely.
If you were in their position and you were them, and then they came to you and said, "We can give you the morning show," would you have taken it? What could they have done different?
What could they have done?
By the way, I liked you better in the afternoon. I love that.
Oh, that version of the show was great.
Afternoon is better than morning.
I'm tired in the morning. But go ahead. So, what would you have done different if you were them?
I would have never been in that position, because I was tight with the company. I would have figured something else out. Because they could have simply done any other shift on the channel. The whole channel was wide open. They didn't need to do that. And it's a terrible position to be in, because, you know, you got to compete against Howard and everyone else. And I honestly,
Jason Ellis.
I honestly don't have Sirius anymore, but I don't hear any buzz on the show.
I almost didn't have Sirius anymore. I saw they're charging me $20 a month now.
Really?
So I called up and I was like, hey, you fired Anthony, then you fired Opie.
Whoa! Officially, they let me go.
I'm sorry. So you let Opie go.
After a year, I settled all differences with Sirius.
Oh, nice. Congrats. And then I said, and then you fired Nick DiPaolo. You literally have nobody I want to listen to anymore except Jim and Sam. I'm not paying $20 a fucking month for that, so cancel me. And then they broke me down to $5.
I don't know what Sal is talking about. I don't know anything.
That's what I'm telling you.
See the scar? They gave me the scar from Planet of the Apes.
But,
I do have to say to the fan base, the old fan base, you know, I just wish everyone would just kind of get on the same page a little bit.
they don't want to.
And just enjoy, you know, what we're able to accomplish.
There goes the
during that
fun,
time.
though. If that happened,
They're not happy with themselves.
It's reality TV, yo.
Yeah, but you're not going to have me as a big participant in it. I'm moving on and just
No,
trying
you
to
should.
do new
You all
things
should, because
and,
I don't
you
want to
know,
go into
I
that.
even wish Jimmy and Anthony the best.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, whatever. Maybe someday we'll sit down.
I got worried you weren't going to start doing this again when you took a little while to get back.
It was tough. It was tough.
When
I went through some tough times a year ago. I was shocked when they let me go. It started out as a firing. Now it's officially a let go. I was wandering around for 3 months completely and utterly lost because that's all I know how to do. And then I had to kind of, now I'm going to sound a little, I had to kind of find myself a little bit, you know. So that's why I was doing a lot of fishing. That's why
Fishing's great.
my
When the
social
water's
media
slick,
was
it's great for the-
basically
Great for the brain.
it was. It's like it's kind of meditative. You should look into meditation, Mike. And then I kind of got myself together with people that I really do care about, my wife and my friends and family. And,
I'm glad you're here. This is so much fun.
And then this opportunity presented itself, and I knew it was time to get back into this.
in radio, you get fired a few times. It happens. As a carpenter, I get laid off every, maybe twice a year. And I know when I come home and tell my wife I'm laid off, she gets very nervous until I get another job. I was always wondering, when you would get laid off, you had fired, or you had these little stints in between, so you got the next gig. Was your wife ever worried, you know what I mean? As a man, I have to provide, so I would always get scared in those moments.
No,
were you ever worried, or
no? My wife couldn't be cooler. She knows I don't even radio doesn't define me anymore. There was a time it really, really did. And she's like, "We'll be fine no matter what." She knows I like doing this, but she didn't care in the very least. She was only with me for one firing. I've been fired. I don't even know anymore. We're 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, but the best
I always knew.
Sam Castle would have been fired now.
Yeah, I always knew that there was another
thing?
gig around the corner. But this last time, when Sirius let me go a year ago, I was just plain exhausted and needed
the break.
There's one question I've been dying to ask you, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever have Sam Kennison on the show?
Dude, I do this because of Sam Kinison. No, but hear me out.
Okay.
Because it's kind of a good story. So I have my mentor's Brother Weeze in Rochester. He, when I heard him coming through the speakers, he's a guy that's a legend in Rochester radio and known in my business big time.
Is he better health-wise? I remember you saying.
Oh, yeah. He's 70 years old and he's just an animal. He drinks tequila with wine. This guy's an animal. For real. He has so much energy. I listen to him every morning, thanks to iHeartRadio. Through kind of the traditional way, working on my voice and having those golden pipes, which I never officially got. And I'm like, but I also found it to be kind of stupid. But I was young and still trying to figure it out. And 2 things happened. I was in my fraternity house in Geneseo, and someone was playing Brother Weeze's show, and I'm like, what the fuck is this voice coming through the speakers? It was a terrible voice, raspy, and it was almost like he couldn't finish his sentences, right?
Wow.
But what he was saying was amazing, and it was way better than all these other guys with the polished, voices. So that was the first thing. I'm like, wait a minute, you could do this very differently. You could be more yourself on the radio. And then, as luck would have it, I ended up moving to Rochester, and I worked for WCMF at the time where Weeze was, and Weeze took me under his wing. I'm like, now I'm hanging with the guy. This is crazy. And then he was friends with Sam Kinison. Wow. Sam Kinison came in, and he hung out for he came in a few times over the years, but the one time he stayed for 3 days, and it was just 4 hours of Sam Kinison and Weeze on the radio. I was just a young kid. I got to be in the studio up on a cabinet way up near the ceiling with a little video camera. I wish I could find the video, by the way. I
love Sam. He's one of my favorites.
So the point is, though, I heard Sam Kinison and I threw everything I knew out the window. I'm like, This guy is not following any formats. He doesn't care who he's pissing off. He's just speaking, whatever's in his head at the moment. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. I'm not trying to say I'm funny like Sam Kinison, but his style and how he didn't give two shits about anything.
He was a brilliant genius.
So between
doesn't be another Sam.
But that was one of those moments where a light went off in my head. I'm like, I'm doing it all wrong. And I started to kind of take a page from his book as far as that stuff goes. And then continue to think Weez is just God to me.
And that's what you taught me about great radio. Don't put on the fake voice.
No.
Always be real. And sometimes you gotta piss the establishment off a little bit, because then the fans are on your side. Then you have power,
Yeah.
Which your last let go, right? I thought I was gonna ask you, like, do you regret taking the video? But I'm not, because we all do stupid shit. What I want to ask you is, like, being a construction worker. There's two things I do, comedy and construction, where at work, in the workplace, the only places we shit on each other all day for fun.
Right.
Now, I know what level I could go to with different guys at work, because we really racial shit, how we look, homosexual jokes, and we love it. It's love, Now, if one of them turned around and got me in trouble, I would be shocked. When you got in trouble from Roland, were you like, oh my God, I thought we were cool, like this is kind of a betrayal? Did you feel that way?
This Sal guy is really smart. That's exactly why I was just devastated, because I'm like, he was one of our guys in our inner circle. I hired the guy, and he hung out with us all the time. I mean, besides the radio show, we would hang out a lot after the show, before the show.
I remember how tight he was with the man Cuban. So I'm like, now he just got the Cuban off the head, too.
I think in a way he was jealous that me and Carl started getting close to Cuban.
Mm-hmm.
But we were kind of aware of that, so we tried to include him, and he was already included, but just make sure he was cool, you know what I'm saying? So, that day in the bathroom, which, by the way, the video, it's just a G-rated video, whatever. I was completely shocked, because I was never going to post it unless he told me. The thing was really funny, and it was so funny we were laughing our asses off. I showed Roland the video, and he was even laughing, and I asked him, I go, Roland, can I post this? He said no. I'm like, And then next thing I know, the guy is avoiding me at work, and I don't see him anymore. And then I happen to go to another bathroom, because the bathroom I was in, I don't know, I went upstairs. I forget why. There was another bathroom upstairs that no one really went to, and he was coming out of there. And I'm like, and I go, hey, Roland. It was the first time I saw him since the incident. And literally said that to me, and kept walking. I'm like, what is going on?
Management probably told him, don't use that other bathroom anymore.
Yeah. So next thing you know, it becomes this whole.
So
thing.
You didn't realize that would be over the line with him personally?
God, no, not for a moment.
Do you think he had it just out for you then? Like, this is where I could get Opie?
You're going to have to ask him.
I can't figure out why he would do that.
You can ask him.
He put a lot of people out of work.
You can ask him. So
Sal's a great investor.
No, you can ask him.
I got to know, Mike, for my fans. I got to ask these questions.
So the thing is that, you're obviously a fan of the radio show. All the stuff we did over the years, on air, off air, in bathrooms, outside, everywhere, right?
Right.
That was
the line. Yeah, it came out of nowhere.
And I'm not trashing the company, because, like I said, we have settled everything. It took a year.
Yeah. And what choice do they have if somebody does complain about that kind of thing? What choice do they have in this culture?
Sure, right. In this culture, they probably had to take Roland's complaint very seriously. I could kind of see it that way, but I also know what happened that day in the bathroom. There was nothing that was worth going to anyone about.
I wish you could see that video.
Well.
Thanks, Opie, a lot.
Sal, pleasure to meet you. For real.
An honor, sir.
And I didn't mind any of those questions.
Thank you, Opie.
Mike, are you going to walk us out?
Yes.
Kids actually eat those vegetables.
Are they good?
There's the dog. Of course the dog is yapping. Of course. It wants one last chance to bite me in the ankle. Sal, thanks for real.
Opie, thanks again, man. It's great meeting you.
All right?
Thank you.
We'll do it again. Mike, you going to walk me out? I got to say goodbye to your mom.
Mike, let me get you...